on, everyone? I'm glad you guys enjoyed the last video I made where I was just fucking yapping about complete nonsense about cheddar cheese Doritos for like 10 minutes. But today I figured I'd do a little story time, you know? A little bit of a Mr. Zenoil life story. So this all took place when I was in year 6, right? I was a youngin', I was fresh out of year 5, you know? We're in that little transition period to when we're gonna go to high school. Everything seemed pretty scary at that point. You know, it's like if you don't do your homework, your teacher's gonna, you know, do a Mortal Kombat finisher on you and never let you back in the classroom again. 5 years later, I don't do homework and my teachers don't care and I still pass. 6th grade, it was towards the end of the year, and at that point, this is gonna come in handy later, I did not have a good track record when it came to the library, okay? At lunch, me and my mates would sneak into this library and we would just cause a little bit of havoc, have a little bit of trolling, you know? A little bit of mischievous. And up until that point, I was a pretty good kid, all right? I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to, you know, get in trouble, get a demerit, go get a detention, all scary. I didn't want to go through any of that because I knew my parents would be mad at me. And I knew that it just wasn't worth it to get in trouble. Library, year 6, towards the end of the day, I think it was last period, we were doing English, right? In English class, we were doing debates. The topic of my debate was, should Australian slang be used nationwide, right? So I'm talking like the entire world should be saying shrimp on the barbie, good day, how you going, what's going on, you know, real Australian slang. And I was for that because I thought Australian slang was like the coolest thing ever and I wanted more people to use it, right? Peep the Gucci shirt, by the way, peep the Gucci shirt. Anyway, it's fake. I was on my little Word document and I distinctly remember the Word document. I like, it's vivid in my mind. It was in a Comic Sans font. That's right. I wrote a debate in Comic Sans. It was Comic Sans bold, actually. I think it was, the font size was about 27 Comic Sans bold. That must be in the Geneva Convention somewhere because I committed some kind of war crime writing a debate in that font. Look, I'm not a nerd. Seriously, mate. Comic Sans bold. 27 size. That's like this big in the Word document. Dude, I must have been writing this shit for a person who had like short-sighted vision. They can't see like 2 feet in front of them. This was towards the time where the debate was due. It was due in about 2 weeks up until that point. And me being the good student I was back then, I wanted to get that shit done and I wanted to get that shit done quickly. I locked in that entire period. I was writing, I was scheming, I was plotting, I was doing all types of stuff to get this shit done, right? So towards the end of the period, I had successfully finished my why should Australian slang be used all across the world debate speech, right? It was all done. I had all of it finished. It was all good. I still had the imagination of a 12-year-old child to explore new things and try new things and see what new things are. There was a great speech that Neil deGrasse Tyson did where he was like, a child should be more imaginative and they're gonna grow up to be scientists. You know, I was still on that scientist track. I had finished my debate, right? It was all set. It was all good to go. I was like, right, I'm gonna print this. I press Control P. It's about 3 pages long, right? The debate, which is actually kind of impressive for a year 6 kid. Like, I can easily write a 3-page long speech. Like, literally last night, I wrote a 5-page speech for my English oral. It's due tomorrow. I had written a 3-page debate speech. To be fair, the speech wasn't the best. In reality, it was kind of dog shit. I think it was like the worst speech ever written at that school by far. I fumbled like halfway through the speech as well. I'm just like gathering these thoughts in my mind as I'm recording this. So I press Control P and I go to print this and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, so if there's a maximum font size in Word, and from memory, I think the maximum font size is 1526, there must be a maximum printing size, which is how many pages or how many copies you can print of something. So me being an inquisitive child, I thought that if I put in some ridiculous number into this printing screen, that it would just tell me no. because it was a ridiculous number. And I was a kid. Oh, how wrong I was. I was unknown. I was such an innocent child, you know, ignorance is bliss. I was unknown to how much trust this school put into a 12-year-old child to print a sensible number of copies of something, right? Me being the ignorant child I was like, oh, okay. I'll just set it to like 2,000, right? I'll set it to 2,000, right? So I type in 2,000 on the little screen and I press print. There wasn't an error. Nothing came up. It just said printing now. And my first reaction was, oh shit, I messed up. I messed up big time, right? I was tweaking out. I was like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I was terrified. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna get expelled for this. This is the end of my Mr. Denoyle school career. I'm not gonna go further in life. It's over. I'm done for. I had a plan, and that plan was to run up to the library as fast as I could and fuck around with the big printer until something happened. Ingenious plan. I know, right? I'm so smart. That was the whole game plan. Looking back on it, I realized how stupid of a kid I was. Dude, you could cancel printing from your... I could just look up how to do it on YouTube and just watch a video and cancel them. I was so dumb as a kid. Okay, moving past that, I ran to the library, and as I was running, I was thinking, I was like, oh shit, this will work. This will be so easy. This will be so easy. So I bust through the library, and something to note about my primary school's library, it was big because I went to a pretty rich private school. Like, you would see kids rolling up in McLarens type rich, right? There was this kid named, we'll just call him like Jacob, just for the sake of the story. I'm not going to name drop this kid. His dad owned a helicopter and touched down with it on the Oval one day. I think it was like a special event, but that happened, and that was kind of like a pinnacle for me. It's like, I drive a Subaru Liberty and this guy's dad has a helicopter, right? I run up to the library and I'm spamming all the buttons on the printer and nothing's fucking happening, all right? This printer's making like the dial up 2000, so it's like the and like I can just hear like and I can just see like this stack of paper about, I don't know, it was pretty small. I'll say it was about yay big at that point. And I was like, oh shit, all right, this isn't stopping. And I wasn't gonna unplug the printer because what happens if someone else wanted to print something? I was a fucking idiot. No one else could print something. I was printing 2,000 copies of a debate that I can't even read. I could have just unplugged the printer and like ran away and no one would have known. They would have plugged the printer back in and people could have just started printing again. But I didn't do that, right? Because I wasn't thinking straight and I was a pretty stupid child. So it got to the point where the librarian at this school, she was like really weird. I don't know what was, maybe because she was like teaching at a primary school library. That was probably it. She was just probably really like, she probably just hated life. And to be honest, I don't even blame her from having to deal with this shit that she went through with me. She came up to me, she's like, oh, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. And she's like, get back to class. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, you know, I skedaddle back to class. And at this point, I'm just waiting for the inevitable because this speech had my full name at the front. It had my full name on the title, right? It was like, why Australian slang should be used worldwide by my full name here, right? Shit, I'm cooked, right? It's over. So I'm waiting in class and an hour passes and it's about to hit 3:30, which is the time that everyone goes home, right? And I was going to my nan's place that night. So I was like, I'm in the clear. Everything's all good. It wasn't. It hits the 3:20 mark, right? I hear these footsteps outside the class, and something to note about our class is it was on the second floor and the library was about right up that way, right? To the left. Like, you went out and you went to the left and you ran up to the library, right? So I hear these fucking booming footsteps down from the library. This librarian opens the door. She knocks like fucking furious. She's like, you know, like crazy hard on the door. I'm like, oh shit, right? And my mate, he gets up, he opens the door, and I kid you not, this librarian was holding a stack of paper like this big. It was about this big. It was just a huge, massive stack of paper. And in the most shrill and dangerous librarian voice I think anyone could ever imagine. Do you know like the character from Monsters Inc? Like, Wazowski, where's your paperwork, Wazowski? Imagine that, but at a way higher pitch and through an amplifier that a Deftones concert would use, right? Imagine that through a Deftones concert speaker. All everyone hears is, who's this? And the entire class fell into this amazing, thick, unbreakable silence. I see the Comic Sans bold font on the top piece of paper, and I was like, they're gonna realize it's me anyway. I may as well own up now. So, with tremendous bravery on my part, firstly, I was like, I put my hand up, and this teacher, she ran over and she was like, she slammed her fist. Like, she's like, why did you do this? She was so mad. And my year 6 teacher, I won't name drop her, but she was such a kind soul. She was so nice. She was like, oh my God, what did you do? What did you do? And she slams the paper on my desk. And at this point, the entire class had come over and they were like, oh my God, mate, what did you do? What was the worst part, right? Is if, you know how thin paper is, you know how thin it is. And it can like fresh ink, it can clump up super easily with itself. So I'm thinking, oh, it isn't too bad. That must be like a 500. Like they started skimming pieces of paper off the top and it was like 20 pages each. And it was like this much off the top. There was so many copies of this shitty debate on this table. It was the worst feeling of guilt I've ever felt, ever. My year 6 teacher at that point, she was like, stay after. She was like really fucking mad. I'd never seen her that mad, and I was like, oh shit, I'm cooked, right? So everyone leaves, it hits 3:30, I'm staying behind. They get all the year 6 teachers plus the librarian in the room with me, and they start fucking berating me. Like, they were talking to me like I was on death row. I just committed a double homicide, killed 18 people in a car accident while I was drunk driving. Mate, they were so angry at me. It was like, I deserved it. First off, I was an idiot, right? I'm gonna own up to my actions that I did 5 or 6 years ago. I'm gonna own up to that. I was an idiot, okay? I thought that printing paper had a limit. It didn't, right? Lesson learned. But these teachers, they were like, why did you do that? You knew that it didn't have a limit. You knew. And I was like, no, I didn't. And they're like, yeah, it's gonna cost $2,000. And I was like, oh shit, no. And the funniest part is, I don't think my parents even had to pay a dime for that mishap. I think the school just like replaced it. And I went home to my nan that night. My grandpa, he's a bit of a menace, and that entire night he was just making fun of me. He was like, oh yeah, 2,000 copies, mate, that's awful. And I was like, no, it isn't, shut up. And I was like crying. I was like, oh my God, my parents are gonna kill me when they find out about this. And to this day, I don't think I've ever been more cautious when it comes to printing something. I like triple check every time that it's the right amount of copies, and it's like color, and it's like black and white, and it's all this other shit. That's the 2019 printer incident. Hopefully you enjoyed this little rant I did, this little yapping session, and I'll see you in the next yapping session, hopefully. See ya.